Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and the footage you're about to see is a team that I had a ton of fun with, but under no circumstances would I recommend using the team if you care about your ELO. Now, at the end of today, I just wanted to have a little bit of fun, so I slapped together a team with zero thought in mind: Gastrodon, Shadow Typhlosion, and Shadow Chandelure. Shadow Chandelure, of course, inspired by the duo stream that I had the other day with Inadequance, as Chandelure is his favorite Pokemon. Now, this is not a good team. However, with some luck on my side, I was able to 4-1 in my first set and reclimb over 3,200 ELO. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a great start in game number 1, leading Gastrodon into Dunsparce. Opponent safe switches into Wigglytuff, and that's immediately going to be hard punished with Shadow Typhlosion. No baiting here from the Typhlosion, picking up the one-hit KO, and down goes Wigglytuff. Safe switching Wigglytuff in a meta where Toxapex is very common is absolutely wild to me. There's not a good time to throw this Blast Burn. Anytime I throw it, they're going to be getting a lot of free turns, so I just fire off the move, and I'm more than happy to take that extra shield from my opponent. I send in Gastrodon, they're going to go for the Drill Run, and they're going to actually fire off Drill Run number 2. Gastrodon not threatened by 2 Drill Runs, so I'm more than happy to let this go and keep farming quite a bit. And now I'm able to play to the CMP tie, denying their energy unless they commit the final shield. That's going to pick up the KO in the back is Annihilate, and this is one of the Pokemon that I was targeting with Shadow Chandelure. Annihilate, of course, if shields are down, Rage Fist would more than one hit knock out the Chandelure, but with shields up, Chandelure is going to be able to fully incinerate through my opponent. They're going to make a last second Rage Fist, but there's still a shield available for Chandelure. Shield is used, Incinerate KOs, and we're able to take a win in game number 1. Hopping into match 2 of this set, Gastrodon into Shadow for Alligator. Shadow for Alligator would be an absolute nightmare for Chandelure, so I'm very happy to see it on the lead. Here my opponent makes a pretty big misplay. They could have thrown after 7 Shadow Claws and thrown on good timing, but when they didn't, I was very confident they were going to throw on 10, so I actually build up to the Earth Power and I intentionally throw on Alignment to put the first shielding decision of the match on my opponent. Now I'm going to undertap another Body Slam and aggressively switch into Typhlosion as they simultaneously switch out into Clodsire. Again, Typhlosion, I'm up a shield. I'm going straight for the hard-hitting Blast Burn. Blast Burn is shielded, and I'm honestly just going to save 2 shields for Shadow Chandelure. Shadow Chandelure cannot take any fast move pressure whatsoever, but of course since Clodsire runs Poison Sting not particularly threatening. So I am going to commit the shield as they're going to fire off another Stone Edge, and I'm going to undertap the Flame Charge just to get rid of the Clodsire as soon as possible. Down goes the Clodsire. They have a 1 HP for Alligator. For Alligator does have some energy. Oh no, in the back is Ferrothorn. They're going to make a catch on it for Alligator, but that's not going to matter. Flame Charge picks up the KO. In comes the Ferrothorn, and that poor opponent just gets absolutely burned down by the double fire. We pick up a decent lead in the next match, leading into Azumarill. Opponent safe switches into Annihilate, and unfortunately, my counter swap here is way too slow. I should have switched after 1 Mud Slap. Switching after 2 means that I'm going to have to shield, I have to throw instantly, and I'm going to exit with no residual energy. My opponent does decide to shield back, and they're going to be able to grab both shields in this matchup, which is very uncomfortable for me, as now I have Shadow Typhlosion in the 0 shields, when Shadow Typhlosion usually prefers when shields are up. I'm going to fire off the boosted Shadow Ball into Azumarill, and that is definitely going to get the shield back. The opponent not taking any chances. In comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon going for the Earth Power. That's a catch by the opponent, but they caught onto Serperior. And Serperior has a nasty surprise waiting for it as in comes Shadow Typhlosion. And this upper 3100s meta is very weak to fire in the back apparently. We get to exit with the 2 Thunder Punches, and I just undertap here as the Azumarill did have the charge attack loaded. Shadow Typhlosion easily winning that CMP tie. I won't get my second Thunder Punch, but it's not going to matter. Play rough KOs Typhlosion, but I can bring in the Gastrodon. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got a tough lead and a tough opponent in the next match leading into Venusaur. Typhlosion save switch answered with the Shadow Quagsire, and they switched in just fast enough to make the Aqua Tail before, unfortunately, I can make it to my Blast Burn. Now this opponent is Beelzeboy, who was 4th at the World Championships the past year, so this is a very difficult opponent. I try to commit to the Blast Burn because I know landing a Thunder Punch doesn't do a lot for me as the Typhlosion, but I will get outpaced, and now I send in Gastrodon. My hope is that somehow, against all odds, Shadow Typhlosion has cleared the way by beating out the Quagsire so that Shadow Chandelure will be able to sweep. Opponent is going to make it to Aqua Tail number 2. That's going to get the Gastrodon very low. Gastrodon is able to get the farm down. Opponent sends in the Venusaur. Looks like, unfortunately, they did get 1 turn lag, so their Vine Whip was denied. Earth Power lands. In comes Shadow Chandelure in the back. No, it's a Carbink. And all hopes of a 5-0 set go out the window. Shadow Ball, huge damage to the Carbink, but it's not going to matter. And I will resign the match. Hopping into game number 5 of the set, and it's an uncomfortable lead, Gastrodon versus Shadow Annihilate. Shadow Annihilate is absolutely terrifying. Even in neutral situations, its damage just ramps up and completely overwhelms Pokemon. Look at Gastrodon, it's almost KO'd already. I will go for a Body Slam bait. Shadow Annihilate is very frail, so people love to see it. And speaking of frail, Shadow Typhlosion now hits the field of play. 4 counters and I'm already at half HP. I am going to shield up the Rage Fist. Annihilate does get KO'd. And now I have a Thunder Punch loaded for whatever they send in. They bring in a Wigglytuff. How is this their best answer to a Shadow Typhlosion? Blast Burn is shielded. Wigglytuff looking for the farm down, but Shadow Typhlosion is about to slam the door on the Wigglytuff. Hanging on, making the Blast Burn, picking up the KO. In the back is Dugong, and I send in Shadow Chandelure. Chandelure farming up a ton of energy. This is the most obvious Icy Wind in history, but I am still going to shield it. And the reason being is that I can build up to 100 energy. Shadow Ball has been debuffed by the Dugong, but it's not gonna matter. Shadow Chandelure takes the win, and we get a 4-1 set to take us to 3206 ELO. Moving into the next match, Gastrodon versus Diggersby. Diggersby, of course, very uncomfortable for the backline to deal with. However, because it's on quick attack, if shields are up, Shadow Chandelure can actually do well there. I'm going to send in the Shadow Typhlosion. These Incinerates adding up quite a bit, and I am going to respect the Scorching Sands. Opponent, Fire Punch bait. That's a great bait from them. They're going to switch and catch onto Annihilate. I'm going to full charge the Blast Burn here. Blast Burn picks up a 1-hit KO, and I think that's actually worse for me. I was expecting the Annihilate to survive the Blast Burn, because if it did, then I would be in a position where I could get a farm down. But now, I don't get any farm. Their final Pokemon is revealed to be Corsola. I'm going to bank some energy with Typhlosion, switch back into the Gastrodon, but unfortunately, this really feels like a game that's going to be nearly impossible to win. Corsola overfarmed a lot before throwing here, and they baited with the Diggersby, so Diggersby has residual energy as well. Corsola, I'm going to have to send in the Typhlosion. They switch into Diggersby, and now I need to go for an undercharge. So I'm not going to hit almost any bubbles. It still KOs the Diggersby, and I think with that, I am going to lose the game here. These Astonishes are chunking through the Chandelure. Can I hang on and make it to the move? I cannot. I do get outpaced by the Corsola. That is tragic. Opponent even gets the Power Gem BM as well. And unfortunately, we do lose the game. We've got a problem on the lead in the next match, and his name is Shadow Golurk. Shadow Golurk, the odds are this is probably going to be the team that its accent featured, with Dugong and Shadow Drapion in the back. I'm barely able to survive the Shadow Punch. If they went for a Dynamic Punch there, it was all over. But I'm able to get some nice damage, and now I have to bring in Shadow Chandelure and lose a quarter of my health instantly to a Shadow Mud Slap. I shield up the Shadow Punch. I've taken quite a bit of damage. In comes Shadow Drapion. Drapion is, of course, able to outpace that lightning fast 4 pacing to Aqua Tail. I shield, Older Farm, and I'm going for the Flame Charge. Flame Charge is going to boost up the damage, and then I just have to switch into Typhlosion to absorb energy. Opponent throws 1 in the move, so they were trying to throw pretty much as soon as they got the move to not take the Incinerate, but since I switched in Typhlosion, Typhlosion can actually survive. In the back is Dugong. I insta through here. I saw the water typing and thought it was an Azumarill, but it's not an Azumarill. It's going to be a Dugong. And Dugong cannot neutrally survive a Shadow Flame Charge from Shadow Chandelure. We pick up the knockout, and despite an incredibly scary lead, we're able to take the win. very tough lead in the next match, leading into Shadow Drifblim, and this is a Pokemon that this team is so ABA weak to. Part of the reason why at the start I mentioned do not run this team is it has an insane amount of weaknesses. Any Dragonite, basically 1v3s, you're super weak to Drifblim, you're super weak to Mandibuzz. Here, I'm able to grab both shields from my opponent, which is very nice, and I'm really going to have to try and sweep with Shadow Chandelure. Aqua Tail is going to connect. I send in the Chandelure, and I'm going to need Chandelure to sweep this endgame. Shadow Astonishes are going to do so much damage, though. They're going to bring in Steelix. Steelix, I can't afford to take any more damage, so I will go for the Flame Charge, boosting up the damage. Down goes Steelix. In comes the Drifblim, and they just KO me in 2 Astonishes. And now I have to make a call. If I no shield and Icy Wind, I win the game, but they full send the Shadow Ball. That's a stone cold nuke by the opponent, and they're able to take the win. Things not getting any better in the next match, leading into Air/Mandibuzz. Opponent is going to respond with a Dunsparce, as I respond with Shadow Typhlosion. But my opponent has overfarmed too much. In trying to throw on good timing, they let me get back-to-back Blast Burns, and forcing both shields is genuinely amazing. My opponent is going to get a full farm down. I'm going to bring in the Gastrodon, and I one-turn lag, and I don't get a Mud Slap through. That's really unfortunate. The good news is I will be able to tank drill runs for days. Opponent is going to bank a ton of energy. They bring in the Mandibuzz. Thank goodness it's on Air Slash. As Snarl, they would be spamming out charge attacks much too quickly. They are going to go for the Dark Pulse, full sending here. I fire off the Flame Charge. I really need this to knock out. I'm a Shadow Chandelure, but Mandibuzz is massively bulky. It hangs on, and it makes it to a move. The Dunsparce has energy. So, if they bring it in, I have to click the Flame Charge right away. They don't. They bring in Morpeko. Morpeko is just going to get knocked out by the Flame Charge. Flame Charge, yeah, it's gone. There's the switch to the Dunsparce, and I switch back into Gastrodon. Body Slam connects, getting them to 1 HP. They have back-to-back drill runs, but the Mud Slap sneaks through, knocks out the Dunsparce, and we escape with a win. Dream lead in the next match, leading into Unova Stunfisk. They save switch into Chestnut, and I respond with Shadow Chandelure. Shadow Chandelure is going to go for the 1 shield farm down. This Chestnut is on Thunder Punch. Oh no, they make it to another move, and I've made a huge blunder. I needed to throw the Flame Charge there, so that way I wouldn't be down 2 shields. The good news is I have double Flame Charge. 1 Flame Charge will not KO, but a second one absolutely will. So at minimum, they're getting KO'd or I'm getting a shield back. Flame Charge, they're just going to let it go. In comes Shadow Drifblim. I'm able to save the Chandelure on very low health and switch into my Typhlosion. Typhlosion firing off Thunder Punch. That's going to be shielded by my opponent. They can go for 1 Astonish and the Icy Wind, safe in the knowledge that the Incinerate will not register. And now the question is, can I get a Mud Slap down with Gastrodon? Even waiting the clock, my switch timer is not available. Unfortunately, the Chandelure is not healthy enough to survive and Astonish, so even though they're so low, I'm getting farmed down. What a silly Pokemon Shadow Chandelure is, and unfortunately, we do lose the game. We move to the next game, leading Gastrodon into Charjabug, save switch Malamar, no good response available for me, so I'm going to stay in, tank a move with the Gastrodon, and then go for the Earth Power. I'm triple strong to Charjabug, so I don't need switch advantage. Earth Power is shielded, and I get an incredibly clutch defense drop. This defense drop means 3 Incinerates will KO. And Malamar is not going to get a second charge move. That was some unbelievably fortunate luck there for me. Now Typhlosion, it has a whole Blast Burn loaded. In comes Charjabug, and they can't shield. I have back-to-back Blast Burns. If you shield, you just get KO'd anyway. So they are going to let it go. In the back is Corviknight, and I do want to show the Shadow Chandelure. So after the Thunder Punch is shielded, in comes the Chandelure, and let's let these Incinerates get to work. Poor Corviknight just getting fully farmed down by the glassiest fire, or at least one of the glassiest fire types in the Great League. Hopping into the final match, Gastrodon versus Azumarill. Very, very lucky to catch the Azumarill on the lead. That would be an absolute disaster for Chandelure. I'm firing off Earth Power instantly. I need damage on this Pokemon to put it in Thunder Punch range for later. They're going to save switch into Annihilate. I respond with the Chandelure, but I did 2 Mud Slaps before switching, so I was too slow on the swap. Now Chandelure has to respect the Rage Fist, and I have to undertap here. If I do another Incinerate, they're going to make another Rage Fist, and I'm going to go down 2 shields without forcing a shield myself. And I already saw that cost me a game earlier, so I need to make sure that I get at least 1 shield back. So now I do get the farm down. Opponent does have a move on the Azumarill. I'm going to undertap the boosted Flame Charge. Even though it's resisted, it would still do a lot to the Azumarill, so Azumarill is going to commit the shield. They're now going to fire off an Ice Beam that will pick up the KO. And then I'll be looking to send back in Gastrodon. There's no shields available for the Typhlosion. In the back is Corviknight. And that is exactly what we were hoping to see. Shadow Incinerate will 4-shot the Corviknight, but let's speed things up with a Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch picks up the knockout. Azumarill firing off energy. Azumarill needs a perfect undercharge here and a farm down. They're going to go for it, and they got very close to getting a farm down there. But Shadow Typhlosion hangs on, knocks out with a Thunder Punch, and that is a good game. All in all, I had a ton of fun with this team. Shadow Chandelure, it is insanely glassy. As I mentioned at the start and multiple times throughout, do not run this team if you care about your ELO. Me going 4-1, I view definitely as pretty fluky, but sometimes even bad teams can get wins if you do have some favorable alignment, and that's exactly what I had for that set. All in all, I do think that Water Double Fire is a very viable team archetype. I don't often like running this hard of ABB teams where your back Pokemon share identical weaknesses, but they don't really have a ton of flexibility. Like, if you have a Typhlosion and it gets met with the Gastrodon, there's not really anything you can do. So it's not the usual team that I've been favoring as of late. But it was a ton of fun getting to bring a Pokemon as spicy and as glassy as Shadow Chandelure to leaderboard ELO, and if only for a few games, absolutely run amok against my opponents. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please consider leaving a like on the video and make sure you are subscribed to the channel and turn notifications on so that way you never miss an upload. I know I upload every day at 9 a.m. Central, but notifications can definitely be helpful, so that way you don't miss any. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members. The support you guys provide to the channel, it's absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.